Welcome to everybody. Thank you so much for joining us all. And my biggest thank you is to the speakers, who will, each of them will be talking for 5 minutes maximum on some aspect of their work. So the program that we plan is, as you can see, we have the speakers shown up there on the right, and I'm sure that's who you've signed on to see, so you're probably very familiar with that list. But what we're planning is that they will each go for 5 minutes talking on their subject. I will stop them at the end of 5 minutes if they're still talking, and then after all of the 6 speakers, this is slightly different from the program as set out on the website. But after we've had all the 6 speakers, we will go into small breakout rooms to discuss. And you can talk about what you like in the breakout rooms. There should be 5 or 6 people in each room, and you can talk about what you like. But the suggestion is that you do make sure you introduce yourselves, because one of the points of these Women in OR and Analytics Network meetings is for women to meet each other and to get together. And welcome also, of course, to any men who are here. It's not just about a women-only kind of network. It is about building networks and community and being welcoming to people from across the community. So you might want to talk about one thing, go around and agree one thing that you'll remember from today's session, or one question you'd like to ask the speakers. We'll have about 15 minutes, I hope, in breakouts. And then when we return to plenary, what I will ask is that you put any of your one things or one questions into the chat, and we can maybe, if there's a reasonable amount of material there, we can maybe share it afterwards with everybody who was here. The recordings will be made as well, so you'll be able to see things afterwards, and the speakers have all agreed that their email addresses will be available if you want to follow up anything, because it's tantalizingly short for each of these 5-minute talks. So that's what we have planned. And just before I go too much further with the speakers, I'm going to ask Karen to launch a couple of polls on so that our speakers know a bit about the audience, about you. So if you wouldn't mind answering, and we'll give you just about 15 more seconds to answer that, so not too long before we end the poll and show you the results. So, okay, should we end the poll then and share the results? So I'm not actually sure what you can see on your screen, but hopefully it's you can see that we are pretty well spread over all the different career stages, and people are working pretty evenly across academia and practice, and in practice pretty evenly split, well, not evenly split, rather more in-house practitioners than commercial. So thank you very much. That gives us an idea of who's in the audience. And what I love about this actually is it's the same as we've had previously at WOES events, is it's wonderfully diverse and mixed. So let's move on to just let you know that we have 2 more meetings already planned in the schedule. On May the 19th, we're going to go jointly with the People Analytics Special Interest Group to look at the gender pay gap. And on June the 23rd, Antuela Tucker, who I saw in the audience today, so you can email her about this, will be leading a session on using systems thinking based on the work that she did with a master's student last year. So that's what we have coming up. So let's just go back to today. I'm going to stop sharing and I'm going to invite our first, oh, I'm not stop sharing, our first speaker, who will be Paola Scapara from the University of Kent, who will be talking about her work empowering Southeast Asia communities. And once Paola starts, I have a, you can't see it, except you can see it back to front. Whoops. I have a clock, which I shall set going. And if Paola, oh, Unfortunately, it's on my phone. If Paola is still talking at the end of 5 minutes, it will beep. You'll hear it beep, I hope, and we'll call a halt. But without any further ado, Paola, would you like to get started and kick us all off with this exciting session?
Yes, certainly. Thanks so much for inviting me today to share my experience about the work I've been doing in Southeast Asia to empower local communities with operational research. In particular, I would like to talk about 2 different projects that have been both funded by the Global Challenge Research Fund, which is a scheme here in the UK to fund research for developing countries, and especially to help them achieve the Sustainable Development Goals. So, sorry, I've been muted, but I am muted myself. I will introduce the first project just with some pictures. Sometimes a picture speaks 1,000 words, and basically, this is the situation in Vietnam. So they have in urban cities massive problems with traffic and congestion, and these are exacerbated when there is a flood. And unfortunately, due to climate change, the intensity and the frequency of flood is increasing year after year. So basically, we have been asked by stakeholders and government there to address this issue and to suggest how to mitigate the impact of these floods. We wanted to use a bottom-up approach involving the local communities just to make sure that we were really addressing the problems that they were facing. And to do that, thanks to the support of AMDI, we ran some semi-structured interviews with about 500 respondents in the local community. And this included both residents and visitors. Now, I would like to emphasize the fact that flood disasters in Vietnam affect women much more than men, not only because they're responsible for the children, so when there is a flood, they cannot bring them to school, but also because they are really the majority of the street vendors, bringing the product from the countryside into the city to sell during the day. So obviously, if there is a flood, there is a huge amount of lost business. So from this impact assessment that we ran, it came out, it revealed that really the major impact as perceived by the local population is on the roads. So in terms of damage to the infrastructure and in terms of traffic congestion. So we decided to use this as the objective of our optimization model, and this is the impact that we wanted to minimize. One really rewarding aspect of this project, but also very challenging, was that we really work in an interdisciplinary context. So we work also with the meteorologists, with the hydrologists who provide us with the flood maps, future flood predictions in the city of Hanoi. So this was really challenging at the beginning because we didn't know how to incorporate these maps into an optimization model. We finally figured it out, and this is kind of a messy model that we built to kind of capture all the complexities of the problem. But basically, what we were trying to do is that we wanted to help them decide which flood mitigation project to implement and where over a time horizon of 20 years, so as to minimize the impacts of flood on the road congestion and on the damage. And we populated our model with all the inputs that we gathered from the other team members. So we had the flood maps, the Ministry of Transport provided us with a lot of data in terms of the road network, the vehicle speeds, a list of possible projects to implement in the drainage system with their location, the catchments, the cost, the structural properties. So a complex problem, and then we also devised a decision support system, because when it's key when working with real stakeholders to be able to sell then the solutions for the uptake. But I would say that the major impact of this project is that really raised awareness about operational research and the potential to address global challenges in Southeast Asia. So during the final dissemination workshop, we started brainstorming with other stakeholders and academics coming from neighboring countries about the major key challenges. And we then categorized them across 4 different areas: smart city, transport infrastructure, disaster management, and food security. So we broadened up our network. We got more funding for a capacity building project, the Crestoa project. So we work with 7 universities in Cambodia, Laos, Indonesia, Myanmar, and Vietnam. We had early career researchers. Some of them are in the room today, especially the women. Again, in the recruitment of the ECRs, we took into account gender balance, and we were really pleased that in spite of the difficulties, we got 4 female early career researchers. So we run a lot of events for them for training at all career stages for early career researchers, but also at the leadership level. And we also set up some co-design proposal across a different range of teams. The major impact of the project was the setup of the Southeast Asian network, because we wanted them to be a self-sustained community. And that's all. Thank you.
Fantastic. Perfect timing, Paola. And what a lovely way to kick off our session. It's really, really valuable work and really impressive and so important. So in so many different ways. So thank you very much. And also welcome to some of your early career researchers, I think, who've joined us from.
And also I would say Fong Dang was the initiator of all our collaborations in Southeast Asia.
Ah, brilliant. So thank you. Thank you, Fong. So let's move on now to our next speaker, who is Seda Suku from the University of Portsmouth. And Seda is on the committee of the Women in OR and Analytics. So she's done a lot of work for WOAN, as well as doing a lot of work on which she'll be talking about in OR from Portsmouth. You've got presenter view up now, Seda. If you can just change it to the other sort of view.
Okay, that's is that okay?
It worked perfectly in the practice.
Exactly. Yeah. I'm thinking what I did different now.
I think there is a thing which you can change. You should be able to just change the presentation around.
Okay, let me see again. Not the screen. How does it look like now?
That's the one. That's the one. Yeah.
Yeah.
And then you just need to go into slideshow.
Is it?
That's the one. That's perfect. Okay. So you're ready to go. Thank you very much. Off you go.
Thank you. Hi, everyone. I would like to start my talk briefly mentioning my journey in OR. It actually started with an undergrad degree in statistics without actually being too much aware of meeting with OR back then. And my master's and PhD, my master's studies in top university and PhD in management science at Strathclyde give me more opportunity to get familiar with the OR methods and apply them to the scheduling problems by using some heuristics and decomposition methods. Following my short KTP role in the Strathclyde with Datalytics, I am currently working as a postdoc in the University of Portsmouth, and my journey started with OR in sustainability with this project, which is called NEREUS project, looking for resource recovery from wastewater. And after this project, currently I'm working in a transportation field, changing people's behavior for the more sustainable transport options. So I will go into detail about the NEREUS project, in which we were trying to find out to generate some resources from urban wastewater, which makes me really was kind of mind-opening for my journey, because I was not aware that we can recover resources from wastewater and actually help the crisis in water, which is kind of waiting for us. But there are sources that we can deal with it. And in this project, we worked on developing a decision support tool considering the four-dimensional sustainability to aid decision makers to select the technologies in a right way so that we can use the targeted resources and look at the different influence from different wastewater types, considering the local and contextual, local and geographical context, rules and regulations to recover phosphorus, fertilizers, nutrients, and energy from the wastewater. So this was the first project that I was involved, and I was also quite impressed from Paulo's talk, seeing that UN sustainability goals are taking care of OR practitioners. And in the second project, which is about the Solent Future Transport Zone program part of it, it is about supporting the new trials of the transport innovations in the Solent area in the UK, and give more sustainable, easier, smarter, greener transport options to the users, and eventually reduce the car dependency, high car dependency, and improve the air quality, environment, as well as supporting the local businesses, local economy by increasing the accessibility in transport. And as a part of this program, Mobility as a Service, a new concept is which is called as MaaS as well, has a great potential on changing people's travel behavior by providing a app, one platform that they can plan their journeys, both multimodal and single, book and pay for them from one platform in a more compelling and easier way, which we would like to see, hopefully, that there will be some shift in the travel's behavior towards more sustainable transport options. And in this role, I will mainly looking for the monitoring and evaluating these projects, how it is affecting people's behavior in the travel behavior, especially in the Solent region, which has very high car dependency. And on this project, we will use some different statistical tools, different approach to understand before and after implementing the MaaS, how it will improve the society and how the sustainability indicators will change by time. So that's all from my side. I just want to say that I'm really impressed by OR, what it can do, and how women in OR can actually add value to the society. And thank you so much for giving me space in this great talks. Thank you.
Oh, fantastic. Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Seda. You had 15 seconds left, there we go. So that was a real whistle stop through, again, a stunning spread of different ways of making a difference. So brilliant. Thank you very much. We're now going to move to Cicely Striola. Well, we're not going to move literally, because Cicely is the person who is at 5:40 in the morning. But Cicely works for Copperleaf Technologies and is about to give us a presentation on work in the water industry, I think. So over to you, Cicely.
Apologies, my computer seems to be delayed in starting presentation mode. There we are. Now I can share my screen. 1 second.
Oh, okay.
Right. So for me, good morning, everyone. Today I want to talk to you about the work that we did in the UK water sector to allow them to provide them a decision support tool, much like you've already heard from Paula and Seda. But what we were doing was, rather than looking at UN sustainability goals, we decided on a multi-capitals approach. So we're trying to help water companies in the UK incorporate environmental, customer, and performance goals through using a value framework that we've designed for the UK water sector. So for those who may not be as familiar with the UK water sector, it's broken up by a number of companies that serve, sorry, that probably makes it a lot easier for you. Okay, the UK water companies are broken into regional providers that encompass both water-only supply and wastewater and water treatment service as well. And so what we've done is we've looked at that sector and also the regulator, Ofwat, who determines the amount of capital that each of these companies can have for the regulatory periods that occur every 5 years. And they have regulatory requirements as well. So what we've done is we've also taken this multi-capital approach and aligned it to the regulators' requirements. So what we did is we used the system that we already have, which is based on the comparability value model approach. And what that does is it takes a number of KPIs or metrics that each company would need to measure to understand how their portfolio of work is being compiled and delivering the kind of benefits and risk mitigation that the company is trying to achieve. And what we have are these models that take all these inputs from the different disparate sources of information that a company has, and it curates that information and directs it into these metrics so that the company can do their evaluation in a consistent and transparent way, so that you know that you're not having one voice be the loudest advocate for a project. You're looking at the quantitative and conversion of qualitative elements into a quantitative approach, be the guiding light that's driving the decisions in an organization. So when we look specifically at the UK Water Value Framework, I mentioned before the 6 capitals. So it's very similar to what Seda just showed as far as our approach, but we added another element for this for these enterprises.
You're just breaking up a bit, Cicely.
Which is looking at how it's impacting the society and the organization's operating. Human capital, which is looking. Sorry.
Your sound is breaking up, so I'm just gonna I'm gonna pause for a minute and
destroy my 5 minutes.
No, I paused it. I paused it, but I think we need to just give it a moment, see if your Wi-Fi comes back. Maybe turn off your video. I don't know if you can turn off your video of you, the picture of you, without turning off the screen as well.
Yeah, I'm going to shut a lot of stuff down, and it may be that I just need to talk to you, and I look at my slides and I don't touch screen.
Yeah. Tell me when you think you're ready. This proves to everybody that it's live, just in case you thought we were a nice, smooth, recorded setup. Probably everybody else in Vancouver waking up at the same time, turning their kettles on. We can still see your screen frozen, Cicely, and your slide up there. I'll give it another few seconds to see if it sorts out. And if not, what I suggest is we go on to Ina, who's our next speaker, and then come back to you. No. I'm hoping that Cicely can actually hear me
I can hear you now.
Oh, okay, that sounds a lot clearer.
Yeah, I apologize.
No problem. Okay.
What a failure.
Oh, where are you gone? Oh, there you are. Okay, you're just going to talk to us now then, or is that
without
the slides?
I'll quickly do a whistle-stop tour in the last, because I'm over time now. But
no, it's okay. I'm starting again. You've got 1 minute and 55 seconds.
Okay, thank you.
So relax, enjoy.
So I think the last things I said was we had the 6 capitals, and you did, I think, get the benefit of showing that, seeing that visual. The next slide that you would have seen is that what we did was we then mapped all the common regulatory requirements for the UK water sector to those 6 pillars, so that organizations would have an understanding of when they were proposing capital work or major intervention work, how that work was contributing to each of those 6 factors, those 6 capitals. And that meant that, if you were doing some kind of work that would help vulnerable customers, for example, you would be able to see how providing that service for vulnerable customers would impact your goals towards achieving better social capital and social engagement in in the environment and the context of the region where the water company is operating. And then the next thing I showed was a deep dive of particularly the social model and how the elements that a company would need to monitor. So the expected number of contacts for a vulnerable customer, attempted contacts, and PSR reach would end up impacting later elements such as rolling into the financial capital and societal capital, and still be able to report on the actual contacts made to Off-White. And the way that we were able to take some of these more qualitative measures and compare it side by side to more quantitative measures is we monetized everything based on company valuation. Yep. And then finally, the last slide that I had was just showing that there's a multi-capital optimization approach. So we enable the companies to optimize so they could see exactly how they're reporting against target and how different scenarios could be better than an alternative. That's it.
Well, thank you. Thanks very much, Cicely. And I think, and not only is that really interesting work and very important, certainly, and to those of us in the UK, and the knowledge that you're systematically looking at the social as well as the financial sides of things. But also, I think it's a brilliant psychological demonstration of how you can keep going in times of Zoom. So thanks very much for competing with the system. And time to move on. So our next speaker is Ina Steenmans, who is from University College London and who I've been inviting to join one of these sessions for a while. But unfortunately, every time we've had it when she's been on holiday. So delighted that you're working at the moment, Ina, and over to you.
Unfortunate for you, very fortunate for me to have been on holiday. So nice to meet you all. It's so nice to be here. So I'm an OR practitioner and analyst, but I usually actually live in the world of public policy. So that's national governments, regional governments, city level governments. And generally, I've been looking at the way that not just the methods, but like the skills that come with those, the processes, program design, how that's all informed in terms of how can OR make the best contribution to different types of policy problems. And now, we have a global audience here, so especially in the UK, the relationship between OR and public policy, government work, is really not unfamiliar or off the radar. There's loads of attention on it to do with COVID and climate change and sustainable development goals. So there's a lot of interest, a lot of question marks. Then on the side of how do you engage effectively with people who work in public policy, and even if you're working within a government, how do you make the most use of OR? So there's a lot of work that's being done in this space. If you're in the UK, I'm just flagging a few things here. These are national research projects that are asking the question of how do researchers or analysts better work with policy, and how can policy mechanisms better engage with the knowledge and competencies and skills that exist out there. So they're just like on the screen there. There's a lot of advice for like how, if you want to work in this space, what should you do? And a few years ago, a really great review of some of the best tips, hot tips out there was done by Paul Kearney at University of Stirling in Scotland and Catherine Oliver here in London. This is just a snapshot when they were like, what recurs when you get advice when you're like, I want to work for policy, I want to have impact on public policy. And you see here like, do good work, be available, develop relationships, which is all accurate, true, representative. But probably if you've done any kind of work in public policy spaces, on public policy problems, you know that the experience can be super messy, frustrating, disheartening, stressful, confusing, and no one's being evil or malicious or counterproductive, but it is a very, very complicated, intensive space to be working. So the question I wanted to bring here today was to bring in across the work that I do with colleagues in bridging OR into public policy and asking the question specifically on that relationship. What is it that actually can be challenging? And what if we learn about some of just like use of language or approaches, how you present yourselves, that actually help speed up some of those like pain points. So this is a major summary piece, and something that I have found really helpful is to think through it through a metaphor. So if you think about important relationships in your life, your partner, your parents, it's the same with public policy. So working with a public policy counterpart or working within a public policy space and doing OR work. What I mean is, and I've got three topics, but I'll give you a flavor. So in terms of those hot tips of how to work effectively in public policy, if you're in a relationship, I'd be like, it's not you, it's me. And that's the same in public policy. Often you'll find that you work so hard to have impact through your analysis and you're not quite seeing, well, actually it's very little to do usually with your skills or how skillful you are. Much of it is about the processes and the kind of different norms and cultures. So like one thing is accepting that. Some other, like, it's a bit humoristic here, but it's like, oh, you're not being rational. I don't think you're being fair here. That will be another experience you might have as an OR analyst. It's like, I'm giving them all of the good rational analysis. Why are they not behaving and acting? That's because public policy is about more than rational analysis. It's political, it's about values. We've just heard about different types of capital. Let's not get complicated. Often policymakers are under pressure. They want something easily digestible. That's not because they're lazy. That's just because that's what they need, etc. And so one of the last ones I wanted to highlight is that these relationships are for life. It's not like you just act once and then there you go. You've got a great relationship with your public policy counterpart. This is an ever ongoing labor of love that's always going to take work. So for OR, 3 things I wanted to highlight is go beyond the superficial, like demystify. When you show up with your dating profiles and OR analysts, like, I've got systems thinking for you. I've got a way to handle complexity. Help them understand what that means. Like, I'm going to help you understand how confident you can be about your evidence base. I'm going to help you bring robustness into decisions. The other would be, it's not just about chemistry. It's not just about, hey, I think we would fit well together. It's like then talking through, how are you actually compatible? You meet your senior decision maker, they'll be like, okay, so you need to do evaluations. So while I think you need to do problem structuring or soft OR, I'll explain to you how I see this fit into your ongoing monitoring and evaluation work. And my last tip is enter into the expectation that you're not going to be together forever. So when you work with someone in public policy, do it like a relationship. I just want you to be happy in the long run. So I'll work with you now and I'll do whatever I can to help you grow. I'll share my knowledge. I won't be hanging on to that, and do capacity development in the long term. And those are my 3 things I've learned, the better and the hard way, about developing a great relationship with policy counterparts.
Thank you very much, Ina. Thank you. That was, you had an extra 8 seconds, so you slightly beat slightly beat Paula. But yeah, that relationship is for life, not just for Christmas, but yeah, it's interesting that our next 2 speakers are both from public sector organizations. So I'm sure that there is a lot that they'll have that will have resonated with them, and will perhaps not be picked up explicitly, but it provides a brilliant background to the sorts of world that they're operating in. So thank you very much for that. Well worth waiting for me, through your leave. And our next speaker, Olga Tolmachova, is also somebody who I've been inviting for a long time and hasn't been available, but I'm delighted that she's with us today, working for the Nuclear Decommissioning Authority. And sorry, I missed where I put my all-important timer. So I'm going to hand over now to Olga to talk about Europe's most important project, environment project. Off you go, Olga. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Ruth. Good afternoon, everybody. My name is Olga, and my background is in modeling and analytics. In my current role, I get to work with fantastic people and on very interesting projects that I would like to share my passion for with you today. I'm currently working as business analyst in NDA, and I've been with the company for over 5 years now. NDA stands for Nuclear Decommissioning Authority. It's a non-departmental body in the UK that has been created through the Energy Act in 2009. NDA is funded through BASE, and our total planned expenditure is voted upon in Parliament every year. Our mission is to clean up UK's earliest nuclear sites safely, securely, and cost-effectively, with care for people and for the environment. UK has one of the largest inventories of nuclear materials and sites, legacy of its long-lasting civil nuclear journey that started in the 1940s and continues onward today. Our 17 sites are at different stages of decommissioning and all have unique challenges. Our most urgent tasks is dealing with high hazard materials across our sites, such as spent fuel, nuclear materials, and high radioactive waste. Once the inventory has been made safe, the redundant nuclear facilities can be dismantled and demolished, and the land could be released for other uses. So our mission in NDA will be completed when we release our current sites that are licensed for nuclear activities for other uses for the community. And this is going to happen at different times at different sites, with the final then being cleared after 2120. In practice, this means that as analysts, you get to work with a wide range of timescales for your analytics and for the decisions. For example, some reactors will be defueled within this decade, but other decommissioning work and projects will last until the middle of the century, and other ongoing work may extend beyond 2080s. And this is just the project and program side of things of the timescale that we're dealing with. Underneath the hood, there is even longer timescales to consider. Just to put things into perspective, the half-life of plutonium is 24,000 years. That means a lot of decisions that we're going to make today about that material will have to take into account things that happen very, very far in the future. And considerations that we have to explore and include in the analysis may vary from glaciation, flooding, effects of climate change, future war, you name it. And we need to understand how this future environment, however it will end up looking like eventually, may affect the containers, may affect how the materials will be evolving inside those containers and so on. So roughly, we can divide the uncertainty that we're dealing with into three groups: commonplace uncertainty, legacy uncertainty, and strategic uncertainty. Commonplace uncertainty relates to the factors affecting the majority of the projects in different industries. So that would be something familiar to most of the people working. So that's assumptions about the new build facilities expected throughput, electricity prices, supply chain reliability, delays in construction times, and so on. For legacy uncertainty, that relates to the legacy facilities and material we have to decommission in our line of work. Legacy materials may behave in different ways upon their recovery from current containment, and the range of scenarios needs to be considered to make appropriate case for their retrievals and decommissioning. And finally, but not last and probably the most interesting, is the strategic uncertainty that relates to the long-term nature of the projects and programs that we deal with. Assumptions have to be made about the world and the state of it in 10, 30, 50 years from now. And such simple questions as, for example, transport can become much more complicated than you think. Would we even have rail in 50 years from now? Or would we have to transport our materials in some alternative means? We have to account for it. We don't really know. And that's where OR comes to the rescue. I often use Monte Carlo simulation, strategic choice approach, and scenario analysis for dealing with uncertainties and the long-term scales that my work presents to me. I'm very privileged to have the opportunity to make a difference for the environment, for the taxpayer in my line of work. And it gives me a wide range of opportunities to engage with people across all the industry, from scientists to fellow analysts, and to senior decision makers in the government and stakeholders from our communities. So if you're starting your career now or considering career change, I would strongly recommend OR in analytics. There's lots and lots of interesting problems that we could work on and topics that we could delve into. I personally think it's a problem that only 16% of girls are taking A levels in physics in the UK. Math is a great subject, and there's no reason the girls could stay away from it. On that note, thanks, and that would be me.
Thank you very much, Olga. And for those who don't know, I think you might find that last reference was that there is a parliamentary committee currently looking into issues of social mobility, where the question of only 16% of girls studying physics was dismissed as not important by one of the witnesses, to the outrage of Twitter and others. So, or you might have just been mentioning it as a throwaway comment, Olga, but thank you very much. That was and that is a scarily huge project, and I think you probably justified the claim to be the most important, or one of the most important decommissioning projects, environmental cleanup projects in Europe. So thank you very much indeed. And now our final speaker for today, and just to emphasize, don't all leave after the final speaker, because that's the point at which we can get together into groups so that everybody can have a chance to speak. But our final speaker today, who I've known for many years, is Catherine Kent, who had an inside view of COVID-19 from the Organisation for National Statistics, Office for National Statistics. Sorry, Catherine. Again, without too much further ado, except finding out where I've put the stopwatch on my phone, I'd like to hand over to Catherine. Thank you.
Yeah, thanks everyone. Lovely to be here. And as Ruth says, yeah, I've worked in government OR for many years now, and I'm now at the Office for National Statistics. And I'm going to talk a little bit about my OR there, specifically focusing on the COVID infection survey. So just to say that the ONS, if you're not familiar with it, is the largest producer of official statistics in the UK. And OR analysts, although we're very small compared to the overall size of the organisation, we make an important contribution to some of the key statistics, which is all about producing high quality statistics for the public good. You may have heard of some of our outputs, such as the census, or some of our economic statistics, for example, prices. So the cost of living at the moment is very topical. We had lots of impactful work during the pandemic, of which I was lucky enough to be involved in and lead on the analysis for the COVID infection survey, which I'll talk about in more detail. So as a background, this was set up at pace in collaboration with the University of Oxford, as well as many other partners across industry. And this was a research study to answer questions around who in the community had COVID-19, crucially, whether they have or didn't have symptoms, because at the time people were only coming forward for testing if they had symptoms. This was a random household study, and therefore we were able to capture all those people within the community. Plus, we combined it with a questionnaire to give further insights into their behaviours and characteristics to do more detailed analysis. So as you expect, it was very challenging for a number of reasons. The pace at which we had to start the study and collect all the information, lots of moving parts. The high profile nature and the demanding stakeholders was important here. So we had to report a weekly publication and give government and SPI-M, which was the modelling group, information as timely as possible. And I started off with England, but we quickly realised we needed to roll that out to the rest of the UK and increase our sample size to incorporate subnational analysis. With this came a demand for even more analysis. And I was only on the project until the beginning of 2021, but since then it's gone from strength to strength, and they're doing a lot more analysis into the blood to be tracking around how people got vaccinations. So the survey has evolved over time. I mentioned the timeliness, so it was the fact that we had to get things out within about 5 days, which doesn't allow much time for data processing, cleaning, weighting, and quality assurance, but we did the best we could. I was particularly focused on the dissemination side and producing publications that got across the messages around communicating uncertainty, as well as looking at how this compared with other information. So an important aspect was combining our data on infections alongside hospital admissions and also death statistics, which came from the ONS, alongside other surveillance studies, for example, the REACT study, which was done by Imperial College. And I've already mentioned the fact that the overall testing programme was not necessarily designed to be a surveillance programme, and therefore our results were very different. So we did a lot of methodology work to compare, or in this case, not compare the results. So just to highlight some of the best and worst parts of the project from my point of view. So this has been the most influential and high profile piece of work I've been involved in, which of course means it's rewarding. Also, we gathered together a very high performing team of analysts. I got to work with some really, really clever people, and especially collaboration with the academic and experts here. So epidemiology was something I didn't know anything about beforehand, and I've learned from the best on that side. It's also really strengthened my reputation, but also the reputation of the ONS, given how quickly we were able to produce this survey and do it at value for money for the country. It's now referred to as the gold standard for surveillance studies. However, it wasn't all good news. So as you'd expect, there was lots of late nights working on this, getting out the data in a timely fashion. Also, we had to do a lot of building up teams from scratch. So a lot of capability building, getting people access to systems. And of course, this was all done remotely. And finally, something that affects us all, but saying no in these situations when you're constantly being asked for more analysis and realizing where your limits are. Thank you.
Thank you, Catherine. So time to say no and limit what you're talking about. Another great talk. Thank you so much. And talking also about the personal side of what was going on behind the scenes is really interesting. I think just in case people disappear at this moment, I would just like to make a point of saying thank you, and perhaps we could all use our reactions and whatever comment in the chat to say thank you to all of our speakers. I think we've done an amazing overview of the variety of work that's and impactful work that's going on in OR. I'm going to put us into breakout rooms in a moment. I'm doing this. So there should be hopefully 5 or 6 people in each of the breakout rooms when we get there. And you will recall that the suggestion, or for those of you who weren't here at the start, the suggestion is that in your breakout rooms, you do discuss. You do make sure you introduce each other, and then have a quick perhaps discussion about big questions that are left in your mind, or big impressions that you walked away with, one thought that you want to take away with you. We only have 10 minutes left now for the breakout rooms, so I'm going to set those going. If you need to leave now, do please go now, and then we won't accidentally put you in a breakout room and have everybody waiting for you to turn up. So say goodbye to those who have to leave. Thank you so much for joining us. And you will receive a request for a feedback survey, so please do that. But I will just now set up the breakout rooms and look forward to seeing you later. Welcome back to everybody. I hope you managed to get a bit of a chat going in the breakout room. I think they've still got 10 seconds to go. So welcome back to those who come back early. 3, 2, 1, it should all be pouring in now. So if you, welcome back, everyone. Oh, sorry, I've got an echo. I'm not sure what I have to do about that. I will panic.
No panicking, Ruth.
Anyway, there is a request for feedback in the chat feedback form. If you would like to put anything, any thoughts you have, any of one thought, one question, whatever, into the chat from your breakout room discussions, then please do. We'll all be really interested to see it, throw that in. But in the meantime, I'd just like to say huge thank you to all of our speakers. It is much harder to do 5 minutes than to do 15 minutes, in my view. And you all did it, certainly plus or minus a reasonable error margin. Thanks also to Karen Down from the OR Society for helping organize it all. Thanks to all of the audience for coming along and for contributing your own vibes and energy into the room. As I said, please fill in the feedback survey. Do hope to see you on the 19th of May at the next WOES meeting. And if you're the Women in OR and Analytics Network aims to build community and a sense of community. So it would be great if you could join and just keep in touch with us all, and we can all share whatever. So that brings us to 14:30, or unearthly hour clock 30 if you are in Vancouver, or nice time in the evening if you're out in Southeast Asia. But thank you all very much for coming. Great to see you all. Kate asks if the slides will be shared. I haven't checked that with the speakers. Certainly the videos, the video will be available shortly, and we'll find out about the slides in due course.